Hey, welcome back to Métropole Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. We have a new deck dive for you in the startup format. And speaking of startup, really important on the top, I want to remind y'all that we have a free online GNK if you want to get involved this Sunday, February 2nd. This is the first online GNK I believe we've run on this channel. If you want to get involved, again, all the details can be found in the Always Be Running page, which should be linked in below. Just hit the more on the description page. We'd love to have you. We're playing Startup. It starts around 11 o'clock, 10:30 is registration Eastern Daylight Times. That's about 2:30 to 3 p.m. in UTC. We have some prize support to mail out. It's, again, our first time running a tournament like this. We'll also be streaming it, so the VOD will be online after if you want to watch it. But if you want to get involved, play some Startup. We have some deck dives in the past couple of months. You can probably just lift one of those and play it if you don't have a deck ready. But speaking about having a deck ready, this is Android Nightmare of Electric Sheep. This is our version 2. Would I recommend playing this on Sunday? It's kind of up to you if you're brave enough. But in short, we're playing a Thule Subsea Fast Advance deck. So this is Thule Subsea, the new HB identity in Parhelion. I was never the biggest fan of it. I wanted to try it out a bit in Startup. And it says whenever the runner steals an agenda, they either take a core damage unless they're willing or can pay a click and 2 credits. Now, this is a defensive ability. It slows the runner down, and it's the sort of thing the runner is going to have to keep in mind, because taking core damage is not something you're really excited to do. As much as shrinking your hand size has some impact on the game, it's more so that taking core damage into some of the HB cards it's a really important consideration, and we'll talk about that in a second. Now, what we're doing with this deck specifically is that we are playing a full Fast Advance deck. We're playing 3 copies of Biotic Labor as our way to score out from hand for 7 credits. You can hit Biotic Labor, install a 3/2 agenda, do advance, advance, advance. And that's really potent. This deck can actually run up to 7 3/2 agendas if you want to round up a bit. And the big reason here is we have access to the new HB agenda. Ontological Dependence. It starts as a 4/2 agenda, but this is why core damage really matters. As soon as the runner takes a single core damage, this becomes a 3/2 agenda. So here we are at suddenly 7 3/2 agendas. And if they ever take more than 1 core damage, this becomes even better, all the way down to a 0/2 agenda. That's kind of the game plan of our deck. We basically want to deliver 1 core damage as soon as possible, and then kind of turtle up and kind of ice up our central servers, and generally just try and fast advance out enough points to win. With 7 3/2s in the list and 3 copies of Elevagao Bifurcation, it's not that difficult to get to 7 points, barring you need some good enough draw, and you need to kind of hold down, batten down the hatches. Now, a big reason why I got to this is it's very interesting to know. Fast Advance right now in Startup, you don't see a lot of it. At least I haven't so far, but it seems relatively good. While Clot is in the Startup card pool, this is one of the few cards in the entire Startup, let alone the standard format, that interacts with Fast Advance favorably. Unfortunately, though, in Startup, the cards that support Clot, the sort of cards that you see that make Clot kind of a standard card you expect in a lot of decks in the standard format, rotated out of Startup. Simulchip doesn't exist anymore, so there's no way to pull Clot from your heap at instant speed when and if you need it. Same thing with self-modifying code, that's also gone. There's no way to pull the Clot from your deck again when and if you need it. Which means Fast Advance decks, if they can just get their money up and Biotic out from hand, there's a chance that it will go uncontested as long as those central axes are not ripping agendas out of hand. So let's go through the deck really quickly. I think our game plan is actually relatively straightforward, but we'll talk about some of the cards we decided to use and some of the ones that we kind of avoided. Firstly, the agenda suite. This is an interesting agenda suite. We're starting with 3 Elevagao Bifurcation. It's a 2/1 agenda on its own, and that's really important. If we're bioticking out 2-point agendas, we generally want to biotic out 3 of them, and then a single Elevagao gets us to 7. That means the second Elevagao Bifurcation is not something we're excited to score, but if we can get all 3, that actually does change how many other agendas we need to score out. So it's quite interesting. 1 points on their own are also pretty good because it means that our Thule ability is going to fire if the runner steals them, but they're not going to be pushed that much further up to winning the game. It also has some cool synergy with this card. We can de-res certain cards in our deck, things like Spin Doctor, you can de-res to get more value. After that, it gets a bit dicey. I think because we're running Harmonic Ice, you can consider de-resing some Harmonics to kind of juice some more value out of them, as much as that can be pretty expensive. And abstractly, you can de-res a Regolith Mining License, but that practically doesn't often show up. Oh, I guess de-resing Magnets sometimes can be good too, depending on the board state if you want to take more Botulus off other ice, but again, that could be pretty expensive. In terms of the 2-point agendas, we're running a lot of them. We're on Illuminal, which just about of course you are if you're playing HB. We're on 3 Ontologicals, which is our big threat. Again, we're trying to rush to single core damage. We're then on 3 Vitruvius, which we're almost never going to get a counter on this. We're just playing this as a blank 3/2 agenda. Maybe you can install Advanced on a remote server, but I've never done it. And then we're playing 1 Brick of a Send a Message. Now, this is the only 3-pointer you have access to in the format. And I think there's some arguments of different agenda suites here. I think the big question is it better to play 1 Send a Message that you have no interest in scoring out, just a card that you're trying to hide throughout the deck? Or do you want to play like 3 small 1-pointers, as much as the 1-pointers get pretty dodgy once you play all your Elevagaos? And I'm not going to talk about this too much because we're going to have a video about this in the near future, but I have put together some software that runs in a naive but very, I think, interesting way that kind of simulates how many accesses a runner needs to get, again, with some assumptions based off of different agenda suite compositions. And this is 2 of them. Again, I'm not going to dive too much in the methodology of this. We'll talk more about this next week. But just looking at the agenda, the different agenda packages, the top version, Deck 1, is what we're looking at right now. Again, the simulation just assumes the runner is going to take every -1 agenda as a -1 agenda, not take the core damage from Nightmare Archives. But both of these, one of them running 1 3-pointer, the other running more 1-pointers in that slot, end up about the same. 19 accesses on average is what the runner needs to hit to get a 50% plus win rate. There's a lot of assumptions about this, but the big 3-pointer is only really a brick in the 6% of the time where the runner steals cleanly on 3 accesses, stealing 1 send a message and then 2 2-pointers. That doesn't happen that often. It has happened in games before that I've played, but that should happen in 1 in every 20 matches, give or take. So I don't think that's actually a big cost, as much as having more 1-pointers maybe makes Thule a bit more relevant as an ability, but it allows us to get more deck slots back into the deck. And deck slots are something I really struggled with this deck. We'll talk more about this next week, but in whole, the 3-pointer actually, at least to this math, seems kind of reasonable. The cool thing also about send a message is we can get something big like a Brawn Res, let alone a Bloop, which is okay. But yeah, it's a 3-pointer we're just trying not to score out. Jumping to our assets, talking about those negative points, Nightmare Archives. Negative points are actually really potent as a way to increase the amount of accesses on average the runner needs to win the game. Now, of course, they could take some amount of core damage to this. The matches in which the runner steals one of these early, they're more likely to want to take the negative points than like a core damage on turn 1 or turn 2. And that's a really big deal. I feel like the games that we've lost as a deck are often the ones where the runner has never interacted with the Nightmare Archives at all, because the game will be a lot shorter overall. I think it's interesting. I think runners right now in startup are playing around Nightmare Archives. They're generally trying to avoid running archives where this thing ends up. So I think throughout my history playing this deck, I've more often than not actually kept the Nightmare Archives in central servers or HQ and R&D specifically, and forced the runner to hit them as opposed to just ignoring archives. Again, if the runner ignores archives, you can use that to hide agendas to some extent, but you have to remember, if the runner does run archives, they flip all the cards and choose the order they access. So if there's agendas in there that they can win the game, they can just get those before ever having to deal with the nightmares. So watch out. 1-3 Regolith, money is really important. One of the big reasons I'm not a big Thule fan is that it's not inherently an ability that gives you tempo or gives you economy. It's just kind of a thing to slow down the runner. So going out of your way to play as many economic assets, economic operations is really important for this deck, considering Biotic Labor into an agenda is actually quite expensive. So we're on 3 Regolith. We're on 2 Snare. Probably not necessary, but I like having this as an alternate win condition. Again, if the runner ever takes too much core damage, it's sometimes hard to face tank into this. It can be lethal if they don't have a lot of cards in hand, and that ends up happening somewhat infrequently, but frequently enough to feel okay about this. I think there's a chance you can free up 2 influence, maybe play 1 of these, maybe you want to play none of them, but it is a pretty good surprise. As much as 4 credits can be pretty expensive, we're trying to offset that with a lot of economy in this list. Of course, we're on 3 Spin Doctor for so many reasons. Burst, Draw, Definer, combo pieces, recursion for combo pieces. Spin Doctor is just very much worth playing. Operations, 3 Biotic Labors. This is how we score out. Again, 7 3-2s eventually once we land that very important single core damage. Again, more core damage makes it a lot easier. We're on 2 Hansei Reviews. This is just a lot of money in a single card. And inherently with things like Nightmare Archives or maybe some Elevagaos after we scored the first one, we're okay throwing them into the bin. And that's just a lot of money on a single card, and we need a lot of money hopefully as quickly as we can get it. 3 Headshot, again for money, and 3 Planogram as well. Card draw and economy on a 0 cost card is actually really quite good in this deck. You'll find out a lot of times, again, Thule is not very rich, so having an ability to go from low credits up to 3 is a really big threshold jump. From there, you can very easily get to your hedge fund, get to your Regolith, get to your Hansei review, and having that burst is really good. But what you also find out in the mid to late game, maybe the runner has taken on 2 core damage, just drawing into your ontological dependencies or to your Biotic Labors is very, very important. So having that burst draw to kind of accelerate the game is, I think, very valuable in a deck that's inherently a bit slow on both sides of the table. Running a single simulation reset. I think you could take this or you can leave it. Ideally, I like this as a recursion card to shovel back in your economy, your snares, but most importantly, your Biotic Labors. A lot of your combo pieces the turns after they've been thrown into the bin. 3 influence is a lot, and there's some games where this is the most important card and some other games where it's like probably not worth playing. I don't have enough experience with this card to figure out how to play it on tempo really well. It still feels relatively scary to do this on click 1. Even click 2 is, well, that's probably a worse way to do it, but a difficult card to play, but it does allow for a lot of flexibility. They were on a single sprint. This was actually added pretty late to the list. I think we probably should be running more sprints. It's actually one of the most important cards in the deck. There are a lot of agendas and a lot of combo pieces that we want to get in our hand at the same time, let alone there's some agendas, as we talked about, that are just kind of bricks. So being able to put them back into the deck is really important. Maybe shuffling back Nightmare Archives is better in R&D than they are in Archives. Sometimes that's true, but I think this card's fantastic. Upgrades, we're on 3 jupe stats. That's it. And I think the jupe stat is really important. 4 is a lot to res, but it's also equally a lot to trash. And getting one of these protected in the first couple turns of the game is the most important thing. Biotic Labor on top of this for 7 plus 4 to res this is a lot, but dealing a single core damage is the most important thing for the whole narrative of our game in, again, the first couple turns where your remote server is at least the strongest it probably is throughout the whole game. Again, single core damage makes our ontologicals 3 2s, eventually 2 2s, and from then on. And I think the best play early is to spend 6 credits to get a jupe stud resed, and on top of it, just to score out the Ela Vigao as a 2-1. If you can do that, again, the runner still needs to go and trash this, and at that point, you've already done a single core damage, and your Biotic Labors are set up to kind of close the game. Now, ice is definitely the hard part with this deck in general. We used to be on 12 ice. I think we're now down to 11, and it's kind of difficult in this deck. Again, if we're just trying to Biotic out from hand, we don't actually need that much ice. In a lot of games, it does catch up to us, but the idea is that if we just ice up our centrals relatively well, we can just Biotic out from there. Firstly, we are playing Harmonics, so we're playing 3 copies of Echo. This card is like relatively good. If you get it early, it's pretty cheap for an end the run. The subroutines do scale out throughout the game, but unfortunately a lot of the fractals you're seeing equally scale out throughout the game. Whether people are breaking this for free with Tremolo or for like 1 or 2 credits with Cleaver, the late game inevitability of the big Echo, I don't think actually really exists in startup. As much as an end the run for 2 is totally fair, and you want to be playing enough Harmonics just to make sure that once this is rezzed, people are going to be respecting that bloop res down the line. We're also running 1 Brawn. Yeah, Bronze is just kind of the best ice you have. It feels like a lot of times in HB. If runners are clicking through this, it's hard for them to interact with the Thule tax, and 6 strength, 3 subroutines is kind of the best you can ask for. This is obviously very expensive. We try to send a message this if we can, but it's really hard to play taxing barriers. Earlier in testing, I was excited to try out Hakarl 1.0, and unfortunately, Hakarl just gets broken for about 3 credits with Cleaver, which isn't great, and we're not running that many zero costers to be able to get the free Hakarl value if someone face checks into it a bit aggressively in the early game. Admittedly, a single core damage is kind of what you want, but Hakarl feels a fair bit worse than just running Eli, which is probably still good enough, but we wanted to go out our way to run something big that we can put on the 1 server or our remote server, whatever we're worried about where we're going to lose. Usually it's R&D or HQ. Or the remote server. We can lose on a lot of servers. Code gates. This gets ugly. I just don't know that there's any way around this. The code gates in HB right now feel kind of rough to me. We're playing 3 copies of Wave. This is actually a really nice card. When someone runs into a wave, we generally res it for 1 credit early in the game. From that point on, if a runner doesn't want to break this for 1 credit with Buzzsaw, we get good money from it, but usually they do. But most importantly, it allows us to get more ice out of our deck. Only running 11 ice, we still very consistently find enough ice because the waves are basically like drawing 2 pieces of ice as long as they end up getting rezzed. From that too, you can maybe build more of a toolbox. It's nice that we have magnets. As a code gate, we can pull them in the matchups we're expecting things like Botulus from Anarchs, as much as these are both code gates that are less than 3 strength, which is a real big problem in the startup format. Just to show you what the older version of this list looked like, we were running something like this. This is the version 1. And in short, we're not running this sprint, but instead we're running, I think, a couple more ice. We're running 2 copies of Pulse. And I really didn't like Pulse. You're going to see some games coming up that we're definitely playing Pulse, but Pulse is an ice that the runner can always get through without breakers, which is a bit rough, especially in the turns where the runner is just trying to cheese it to close the game out. But again, it's just another ice that's underneath 3 strength. And that's a really big problem when you're expecting Buzzsaw on just about everything. Buzzsaw is just incredibly prevalent across startup as a whole. You're seeing it consistently in Shapers and Anarchs. Sometimes you see it in Criminals, but the fact that all our code gates get broken for 1 credit is pretty awful. And I kind of feel like just playing less code gates is the easiest way to address it. And that's kind of like straight up a problem right now with HB I'm finding. If you look at the HB code gates, only one of them is over 3 strength. Eventually, you know, the Turbine or support deals with the Ravana relatively well, but Ravana is another card that you have to run other support pieces for. It's not something you're excited to run 3 of unless you're running other Biroids. It's ugly in the early game when you draw it without anything else. So it's kind of hard. If you're not spending influence on code gates, and if you're looking at the code gates, there's not that many that are over 3 strength, which means Buzzsaw actually works relatively well in the format. Whether you want to spend 2 influence on Hordem or Funhouse, maybe with some other tech stuff like the click robbing of other HB cards, works actually relatively well with it, but all this stuff is really expensive and kind of hard for a deck to play. So that's kind of one of the weak slots I feel about this deck, is that the code gate slots, while we're running 5 of them, this is probably the worst kind of ice you can get in startup a lot of the time. Speaking of sentries, we're on 2 bloops. This is the big one. I think runners are going out of the way again. Once you have a harmonic res, they're not face checking anymore unless they have a panic way to deal with a bloop. We're seeing revolvers, we're seeing Carmins, otherwise maybe some Nooms every once in a while, but bloop is difficult to break. I think the best case is like Carmin with a Chesva, but I think that's something that I did not respect when I was playing this deck a lot, is a lot of times runners are just scared to face check into unresed ice as long as one harmonic is resed, because they assume a bloop is going to connect. And if it does, that's a core damage, let alone trash 2 programs is very, very strong in startup. And that's this list. I think you're sticking to the basic idea of, again, do 1 core damage as soon as possible. That's so important. You get a jupe stat and something on top of that in the early game. You'll find out from that point on, it's really hard to make a defensive remote. From there, though, that's okay. Hopefully you just have enough stuff from hand you can Biotic Labor out and then recur those pieces. There's going to be a lot of games you're clicking for credits or not doing a lot between turns, maybe drawing a fair bit, filtering your hand. But once you get that set up, it's really hard for the runner to get to 7 points quickly while still dodging your traps like Nightmare Archives and Snare, but also pressuring you and making sure they're not taking too much core damage. To go over some other cards you might consider in this deck, I do think Hendrik is obviously a very good include. I ended up cutting this because I figured out we were not building remote servers really relatively well, and we're not very aggressive or fast of a deck, so it was kind of up to the runner to mess up into Hendrik and end up taking the core damage. I think if you're trying to push more into the remote server, if you're running more upgrades, things like Managarm Skunkworks also really work well. I think Hendrik is a much more consistent way to be annoying, let alone do core damage. But our game plan, we need core damage as soon as possible. So I think jupe stat a lot of times is the best way to get that done. I think Anemone is also really interesting. I think this is another way you can maybe surprisingly close out the game when the game is kind of ground long and the runner might have taken a lot of core damage, doesn't have a lot of cards in hand. I think this thing is interesting, as much as it might be nice to have another sentry in the list. Otherwise, that's his list. And let me tell you, 3 biotics is something that a lot of runners are not prepared for because inherently they can't. It's really difficult to deal with that. I think like Imp, Loup, Carnivore, that's maybe the hardest thing because nobody's actually playing Clot. And if you want to play fast events and startup, I think there's probably better ways to do that. I think Wayland built to last is really good with fast events. And in this format, you have access to things like all the Wayland 3-2 agendas. You don't need core damage for this to be consistent. And then, of course, you have Biotic Labor, you have Trickle Light, and even other stuff like Sansan City Grid and Vladissa Burst. You have so much fast events you have access to if you want to put it all in one deck. But this is Thule fast events as much as it can be pretty slow fast events, but you can definitely get that core damage and score out a lot of cards from hand with 7 3-2 agendas. Triple Biotic Labor might just get you there. Now, of course, we'd love to see you on Sunday. If you want to play in our GNK, you can play this deck if you're pretty brave. I promise you there's deck dives earlier on this channel that are probably a bit more consistent. And of course, if you're enjoying this sort of content, if you want to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, share a friend, all that sort of stuff really helps this channel grow and be deeply appreciated. Thanks so much and enjoy the games. All right, we're in startup. We're playing a fast advanced Thule deck. We got 3 biotics. We're trying to go fast. We want to do at least 1 core damage to make our 4-2 or 3-2. And we're playing against Essa. Essa actually has really good pressure in startup, let alone just the ability and the cards Essa wants to play. We're worried about Chistushka. We're worried about finality. And the stuff can hit pretty hard. So we want to keep good cards in hand or a lot of cards in hand so we can throw out some stuff. Admittedly, though, with Nightmare Archives and our ability, sometimes it's hard to check archives and steal multiple agendas in a turn. And we have a couple 1-pointers, so maybe that'll add up. Sounds good enough. We don't have a lot of ice. I do think we want to get that Echo early. If we can res it, again, maybe there's going to be a Begamut, but otherwise Cleaver will do it. We have a Regolith. I don't know. Essa economy. A lot of times that's going to be Ghost Tongue and events. So we can get that down. I think we're on Ice Up HQ. I'm not worried about, again, early finality is a bit difficult with their ability because they have to slow down a bit. So I think we're just going to get this. The question is whether we just get this on the table. I think turn 1, if you run into this, you'll probably trash it, but I'm not sure how much people respect just like the potential Hendrik just out on the remote server. I think we might want to just hold on to it and then try and ice it up because that's one of the most amounts of money we have on a single card, and inherently Biotic Labor is a bit expensive. There's also a chance we get this to low credits and then we can like de-res, re-res it with Elevagao, which kind of resets it, which is nice. Nuka's good. Love this card in the faction. Zahya Banhar, that's really difficult. There's gonna be some pressure on central servers or any server really. So this is ugly. I don't know if we want to play 7 for just to Biotic at the Vitruvius. I think we can draw up once for a piece of ice. Planogram to draw cards here is not great, but their money is not amazing right now. So I think we can just put this out and we can probably hold this in hand because I do think they might just run with the Banhar through the Echo. And I'll just get in credit. Admittedly, we probably could have gained 3, but I just want to keep cards in hand. We can also, if we keep this in our hand next turn, okay, Maro, we have to sabotage 2. Sabotaging with a card on the table, sometimes it's a Spin Doctor, sometimes it's difficult, but they lost the finality and we'll just do 2 random. So it's a Nightmare Archive and one of our recursion cards. It's a bummer to lose that, but now running archives is genuinely like a thing we're excited about. Let's see what they choose with Banhar again. The first ice they encounter, the subroutines become net damage. Eventually the Echo becomes a problem, but they're going to see that coming because this thing only gains one subroutine generally when it's rezzed. This is also another thing we can consider like Elevagowing and derezzing. No free lunch. Again, tags is something you actually do expect quite often in this sort of matchup, especially if they get on low hand size. Not that they will with Marrow. But no credits means the Regolith is relatively safe here. Okay, so we have a Spin Doctor in hand. I really kind of want to get some value out of the Elevagao. I think there's a chance we can put the Spin Doctor on the table so that we can do some tricks with the Elevagao next turn. I just want to get our money up. So we're going to put this on the table. Actually, no, I think we're just going to gain 3 because we have card draw. And I think we're just going to res this and take some money off of it. We probably should have just taken 9 off of this. It's a bit ugly here, but if they want to bring it down, they either have to crack their fermenter or their no free lunch because they're going to be starting on 0 credits, which is pretty difficult. Yeah, we just don't want to throw out a card there. Throwing out a card would be pretty fine. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should just score this out. It's obviously we should score this before the Marrow because now with the Marrow, we're going to have to do Sabotage 1 when it's scored out. Banhar is still in HQ. Again, we've been drawing. We've gone through, what is it? A lot of cards, 11 cards. So you're assuming there's at least 2 agendas in HQ. So you might just want to send it HQ, especially with all these cards in hand. But maybe they're waiting for a Chestushka before we get a Spin Doctor down. Fermenter, there you go. They got the money. Maybe they'll contest the Regolith again. Inherently, Thule doesn't have a lot of money. So contesting the economic assets is really important. As a Botulus, that's actually really good, well positioned. They can run into this, take some amount of damage if the single subroutine break doesn't do it, but we want to res our Echo just so we can de-res it with the Elevagao. But it's just going to be a Ghost Tongue last click, which again, sabotaging last click is sometimes one of the worst times to do it. They lost a Botulus because we can discard 2 here and just entirely fix it with our Spin Doctor. Fortunately, we lost the Snare, which would have been pretty sick. Okay, Jupestad, that's what we want on the table. Because if they're not contesting the Jupestad, that will do core damage. Admittedly, core damage fires S's ability because it's first time a turn. And it's when this core damage is suffered. It's not when you self-inflict core damage. So actually, this matchup can be a bit interesting. I haven't even mentioned that this matchup can be pretty wild. But I think we want to do the core damage because I think we can actually be a bit annoying. So just put out 2 in a environment server, take a credit. They might check one of these. Again, money's not amazing. We can always draw Spin Doctor mid-turn if they run HQ. But if we want this to survive, we can go ahead and either Biotic out of Vitruvius or just Elevagao on top of it, which would be fine. We just want to get some sort of value from this if we can. Oh, it's an Augustina. Okay, they might just not run. They might just sit back and mill out. In terms of viruses in the format, I'm not sure what we're expecting. Probably 3 Botulus, 3 Fermenter. Maybe we see a Leech. I don't think a lot of people are playing Clot, like just kind of for fun. Checking R&D here, we're fine with that. They had a click and 2 credits left if they don't want to take the core damage, but mind you, they can choose to take the core damage. Okay, that makes sense. That's a time bomb. Okay, so we have a wave off the top. We're just going to go ahead and res the Jupe. We could always cycle more with the Spin Doctor, but I think the Elevagao, I think we're actually just going to Biotic Labor out here. So Server 2, Biotic, triple advance, score. Now, 1 core damage is super important. Well, actually at this point, icing up R&D, they have a fair few core damage. Our ontologicals are actually pretty good. So we have to sabotage 1 from Marrow, 1 from doing the core damage itself from the Jupe set. So they're on 4 hand size or 5 hand size now. But yeah, our ontologicals, we need ice up R&D because drawing into our ontologicals at this point, they're, what is it, 1, 2 agendas? There's 3 and 31. Banhar still in HQ. Got a Botulus. Let's see if they want to deal with the Jupestad. They have 3 credits in the no free lunch they can crack, so they can do it clicklessly. As much as they're clicking for credits here, I think they're going to respect the no free lunch. Checking archives. Okay, it's up to us. We can give them an Elevagao, or we can Spin Doctor back. I think I'm fine giving them an Elevagao, which will be a core damage and the Nightmare Archives. We have a Spin Doctor on the table, but I don't think we mind them. I don't think we mind losing a 1-pointer here. So they paid the tax. I thought they might take the core damage, considering I don't think they fired S at this turn. Oh, there they do. Okay, so they took the core damage from the Nightmare instead of the agenda. 2 cards from it. Let's just go random. Again, I don't think these cards are accessed. These cards are accessed? I didn't think they, oh yeah, because they're new candidates. Okay, so that's a bit ugly. So they're 2 or 1-pointers. We have the last one. We want to score this, otherwise it's hard to get to 7 points. Okay, ontological still 3 and 28. I think we just do install advance here in server 2. We can res the Spin Doctor first to draw 2, then de-res it. I think that's totally fine. This gives us stuff that we can throw out to the Marrow, but we just want to draw into our ontologicals because the whole game is about the ontologicals now. So do advance score. We'll de-res the, I guess we'll do the Jupestad first. Choose up to 2 cards. I think we want our ice. They so far haven't shown any breakers. So we lost a Spin Doctor. We're going to bring that back and a wave and a card to de-res. We'll de-res the Spin Doctor. 1 card of trash. We'll get rid of the Nightmare Archives. They definitely want to go run this. So we're going to get 2 more card draw and they can always contest HQ. The time bomb is next turn. So it's a bit ugly for us. We also have 2 more biotics left in the deck. We have to make sure that we get the biotics back. Simulation reset also might be kind of good. Oh, nice. Imp. That's really good. Augustina. So I think we're just going to go random because we have the Spin Doctor there. Again, the first virus installed turn is a Sabotage. And this might be one of the more like sit back and fight things deck. They have to contest the Spin Doctor here. Maybe they just run Archives. It does the same thing. But they're on 2 core damage. So a tag is kind of scary if they're worried about end of the line distributed tracing, which is a thing that a lot of Thule decks do. So what's in here? Do we care? I honestly don't think we care. No, this is just take another core damage if you want to. And admittedly, if they hit the core damage, we can Sabotage too. We'd have to Sabotage too if they don't take the negative points. They're taking the negative points. Okay. They're only on 1 agenda point. We just have to Biotic out this Vitruvius and score an Ontological. We need an Ice on R&D immediately. That's a Raindrops just for value here. A Snare will win the game. There's 1 in 23 though. An Ontological would be the opposite. It would be really quite bad. We also have a Send a Message in there. Planogram gets imped. So they don't go back. We're going to draw an unknown card. Let alone we can always break lock with Spin Doctor. And there's a chance like we draw 2. I think if we draw 2 Ontologicals, we just win, right? Like we just score 2 Ontologicals on top of the Jupe stat. They're just drawing a card last click, 2 cards in hand. Okay, cool. I think we peel out with the Spin Doctor to find an Ontological. Nothing. Okay, so we just ice up R&D. I think we ice up the Spin Doctor too. So we're going to do a bit of everything. So Pulse is the one that ends the run R&D. This doesn't end the run, but they don't know that. And here, I think I want to keep cards in hand so we have things to Sabotage. I'm just going to hit the Regolith. Middly next turn, we have a chance of drawing into our stuff. Here we have to do Sabotage 3. They didn't contest the Spin Doctor, so this is actually really safe. What's it called? Sabotage. So we're going to Sabotage 3. We lost 2 Regoliths. We threw out one of the Regoliths. We lost a second Regolith and a Bloop. More card draw with Nuka. Again, they're on 6 core damage, so it's hard to take more core damage at this point. And they're not contesting the Jupe stat, which they could definitely imp for free. But again, we only have 17 cards left and we haven't seen any Ontologicals. There's an Enga, not a virus. So here we have to Sabotage 1 before the Axis. I think we're totally fine sabotaging Hedge Fund. In theory, the Jupe stat at 2 is worth sabotaging. Yeah, that's a bit better. So they access all those cards. No clicks left. Again, we have 3 and 17 for the Ontologicals. And if we draw multiple of them, I think we draw for Ontological here with the Planogram. Draw 3. Wow, nothing. Okay. Here we can just ice up. I think icing our Arcus is okay. They're still not contesting our Spin Doctor. We have another in hand. I do think maybe just getting better ice on HQ matters, but admittedly with the Banhar, they're going to get through this ice even if we overinstall and trash the Echo. They just kind of sail through, let alone they can sail through any server. I didn't even pay attention to what they Banhar'd last turn. Snare in hand is nice. That's obviously quite good. I think we want to just like double ice R&D so they can't just like finality out because the game seems to be an R&D. They can't just like Banhar finality and close the game. Haven't drawn to a Biotic or an agenda. We still have this Vitruvius, but again, there is 3 agendas in our deck that are 0 to score. We just install them on the table, do a core damage. We'd have to Sabotage 3, but yeah, that still gets us close to winning. So we value any burst draw that we can get. Even like Spin Doctoring back on tempo, like double predictive, let alone even the simulation reset might be correct. As much as I like this because it stops them from trying to sabotage too hard. Second, no free lunch again. They have to worry about distributed tracing. That is like a real thing you have to play around. Because actually a lot of these, especially in startup, it's like a really good win condition having tags. I just think so many of the runner decks are playing no free lunch. It's kind of hard to swing into distributed tracing or even, well, anything really that cares about tags. Okay, we'll res the Echo. Just to get this res again, now we can threaten Bloop. So as soon as a harmonic is res, the whole board state has to be reevaluated. They get through this either for 1 Botulus. Mind you, R&D was the Banhar. So here they're in. If they hit the Snare, they get away with it. Sabotage 1. I think we can just go top of the deck. Actually, I don't know if we need the Hansei. They hit the Spin Doctor. That's the worst hit by far. And they can imp that or they can trash it if they want to. Luckily, we can bring it back, but that's our only card draw in hand. So Spin Doctor goes down, Creative Commission, last click again. They don't have to discard a card. They discarded the Banhar. Still nothing off the top. Feels really quite bad. We have the Wave that draws cards out R&D. We can always draw into the agenda. That's a send a message. We can draw once more and discard here. This is a 0-2 agenda. I think we're going to get close to being sabotaged out, but we can just put this in a remote server and score it. And then any top deck from here, we have a chance. So that does a core damage because of the Jupe stead. Admittedly, we have to do Sabotage 3 though, which is a bit rough, but we want to get this send a message out of hand and we make our hand mostly just Snare. So 2 cards, we'll do this and I think the Wave is fine. And 1 card, we'll get rid of the Hedge Fund. We'll make the hand just a Snare because they only have 1 hand size here. And we still have a Spin Doctor. We just have to make sure, obviously, we use the Spin Doctor before running Archives. And 1 in 5 to draw the Ontological that wins. Let alone even top taking a Biotic here would be a win. Wildcat Strike, cards or credits? R&D is the Banhar. We have a pulse there, which is pretty good. I think they can have credits. I don't want them to have cards. Cards is like multi-access. Let alone they'd obviously have to throw them out, but I think the game's gonna be decided before they're down to no cards. It's gonna be because someone lands multi-access here. Just credits though. We have so many. We have a bunch of top decks. We have 2 biotics we can top deck and 2 ontologicals. So it's 4 and 10. Okay, that'll do it. Ooh, that's the core damage matchup. Good game. Oh, Sabotage. We're down to 9 cards. Thanks for the game. I think they definitely could have contested some of this stuff. Sometimes it feels really good, right? Like when you have the Jupstad or when you're taking core damage as Essa, you know, that kind of powers you up. So I get it. It sounds quite reasonable. But if they can't contest these, this is where the whole game comes down to. If they steal these, we basically have to score out with Biotic, which is quite difficult. But they let us do a lot of core damage. 8 core damage is obviously a heck of a lot, but we did eventually get through that hand size. Let's do another one. All right, we're into a Loup deck. This is startup 40 card deck. Loup is pretty slim. I think the good Loup decks are probably on endurance, which is, you know, our ice doesn't hold up. So we're trying to Biotic out and maybe get some fast draw to fix that issue. Opening hand, we have the Elevagao. We have a Vitruvius, which isn't perfect in our opening hand. And we have a Regolith, but no ice. I think there's a small chance this hand is good enough if we just like planogram to draw 3, get an ice and Regolith behind it. I think that's like on the cusp of being okay. You can always imagine worse hands, but you can always imagine better hands than this. And this is like mediocre. I'm going to mulligan this. Just like ice would be good enough. This is the sort of deck you're expecting 3 imps. So just even like HQ pressure turn 1 is very reasonable. All right, we got Echo. We have double Jupstad. That generally is going to go down pretty easy in Loup. That gets refunds on trashes, let alone like imps and stuff. But otherwise, a lot of the other ideas maybe sometimes struggle to deal with this. Best of luck. Have fun. Okay, off the draw, we got 2 ice. I am worried about just like imp pressure. So I think we can leave R&D open relatively well. But this is what we want to put our stuff behind. And this is what we want to ice HQ with because it is annoying, but it doesn't like 100% end the run. So I think we can do that. And then I just think we're going to click for a credit. Together, we can res both of these. But if we ever have to, it's that's kind of all we're going to do. There's a small chance we can put the Jupstad in server 1. It makes the HQ run convert a lot better into agendas 1 and 3. But I think that's actually fine. Like clicking for a credit, I don't know. They'll probably trash this turn 1. That's a problem. Yeah, okay. It's fine. This is a card that like is very expensive, but admittedly, if this deck has 3 biotics, all we want to do is get 1 core damage. We cut Hendrik from the list, which is like one of the more unfair things you can do. R&D is open. We have a fair few trashables, right? Okay, cool. Oh, Augustina. All right. This might be a bit slow. Here they access the top of the deck and then they install Augustina for Sabotage. So like we know the top of the deck isn't an agenda. Now it still could be a good card, but it's not like a spin doctor unless it's like probably trashable. So I think we can just like send it off the top. Ooh, it's a magnet. That's really good into this matchup. We could probably have thrown out a Jupstad, but I just kind of want to show, right? Like if we know the top of their R&D is not an agenda, we might feel a bit safer just ripping it. All right, now they don't know we have a bloop. And we definitely want to get a bloop up because bloop is really good and hard for anarchs to deal with. So all we need to do is force them into one of our harmonics because bloop requires the harmonics to be rezzed. So I think we can draw once. Okay, put this in server 1 and click for credit. We're just trying to bait runs here and then eventually push into this remote server. We actually probably should push in this remote server. Top of R&D going early in the turn is really good. If you want to deal with Thule, time bomb comes down. All right, so we have to watch out in 3 turns. If we can't get a spin doctor down, it's going to be a problem. But this remains uncontested. We have a Hansei, really nice with the Nightmare Archives. Here we want to draw into something we can Biotic out, which would be absurdly expensive, but kind of fun. Or we want to draw into an Elevagao. Okay, Pulse is fine. So we're just going to get rid of the card that is good to get rid of, and we'll just put this on R&D to stop bleeding the single axes. Mind you, we want to draw an Elevagao. They also know that this is not like a Marilyn or a Nico, so it looks more like a Managar maybe, or a Hendrik, maybe a Jupstad. But their economy is all into the fermenter. You don't see a lot of Mavirus in the format. Maybe you could. It's just like so hard to spend a turn to purge. They're checking archives here. Love it. Enjoy your nightmare. Let's see what they do here. Again, a single core damage is the world of difference with Biotic Ontological. So they're probably just going to end up taking negative points as most people tend to do. Negative point is actually really, really impactful. We're going to be having a video next week talking about like agenda kind of compounds or agenda distributions and how much getting a single agenda point when scoring to 7 in this agenda suite is actually like relatively impactful. I think there's a chance we could do Brawn behind Echo. It's just kind of expensive. We want to score at a blank 4-2 and then res the Jupstad. So we're going to try and not do that. Okay, that's bad. If we drop once more, things get really ugly if we don't get something playable. So we could Biotic that out, or we can save 4 credits. Okay, they might take this one. Again, sometimes people are a bit scared of defensive upgrades. They have a lot of money. They've drawn through a quarter of their deck. So maybe they have the cleaver. Time Bomb is going to trigger next turn. From that, that's really quite bad. As Echo is like really hard punished by the Botulus. We'll just go random. Oh, that's the one we wanted. Yeah, I think it's going to fall apart real bad right now. Because we just threw out a Vitruvius. Yeah, this only has a single subroutine. Even if it's an Eli, it's a bit easy. They have a click left. Maybe this will slow them down a bit. But let's see if they trash here. If you're going to take the Vitruvius, would love to chop deck the Elevagao. And now if they pay the tax here, at least the Jupe stat's going to stay, which is okay. So now we have 2 reasons. Again, with 1 point already in the bin, we need a Spin Doctor something here stat. Now, good thing is our Bloop is alive and well, as much as this agenda is not something we want to score out. So we need to draw into a Spin Doctor. That is such a well-timed draw. So we'll put this in server 1. We do need to get another thing rezzed for this Echo to be a problem. And I think icing up Archives is like kind of average. Our ice falls apart really hard once they get down their Breaker Suite. So like, it's unfortunate that these agendas were the ones we drew early, because if we drew anything else, we'd actually have a really good Jupe stat here. We also put the Spin Doctor on top of the Jupe stat. So if we top deck an Elevagao, we can't like de-res it and get core damage and do like all the nice stuff. So we'll do this. This kind of makes it look like this fermenter, or sorry, this Time Bomb is going to hit really bad. But yeah, we can recover here with spin. So 3 cards of Sabotage. Bronze actually pretty good. I don't think we want these in our hand, so I'm just going to use that to clear out. Now, obviously, there's 3 agendas in there, but we're okay with the Elevagao. It doesn't really push them that much further up, and it's kind of expensive to steal, so 1-pointers are at least the easiest way to trigger our ability. Imp with Agustina. Let her rip. We lost the Snare. Hate to see it. Checking their mode server. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Again, single Echo. We can fix that. But now the Jupe stat's going to go down. They're going to get card and credit. They're pulling us apart entirely. We'll definitely res this. Oh, we drew to send a message. That can't be good. So we're going to get back the 2/4/2s, unfortunately. And we're going to lose this at the same time with them getting a card and a credit for the Imp. Yeah, I don't think we got anything here. We just didn't push out on the remote server soon enough. I think we might have double iced that. Pantograph. Oh, that's cool. That's a good enough console, I reckon. So the question is, how do we make the remote server good? I think it probably involves a bloop. What are we going to score behind it? Send a message is kind of ugly. We can advance it out with like Biotic. But if we get the bloop rezzed, it's like, okay, it's fine. De-rezzing the Echo is actually pretty good too. But we want something in the remote server. I think we actually can just get rid of the send a message on like a tempo positive way and put the spin dock in there. Okay. As much as things are looking bad, they have a lot of work to do still. We have another spin doctor. We want to recur all these agendas that are in the bin. So they don't have a lot of economy so far. Again, if they're on dirty laundries, it's harder to play them as much as it might be easier to place raindrops. Okay, that's good. And they have a Banhar, which is pretty great as well. Okay, so we're going to do a little trick here. We're going to res that. We're going to go put this out on a new remote server. We'll do advanced score. Now we can de-res the spin doctor, which is cute. We also could have de-res the Echo, but I like having options here with only 4 cards in our hand. And here they can pantograph, so they can just gain a credit, let alone they can install something. And a Botulus is a really nice time to install it, let alone get a Augustina trigger. That's kind of sick, as much as they know we have a spin doctor. Our hand, we have Regolith for remote server Biotic. I think we can just do top of the deck. Yeah, okay. We lost a simulation reset. That's reasonable. As an additional cost to res this isn't res. Like, I don't actually know how this interaction works, as whether resing the bloop at the moment, does the Echo get the counter then get de-resed or not? Okay, we'll res the pulse, that trades. They have to click through this, but this costs them a click already. So this is going to fire. Yeah, sorry, we had to undo that. I totally forgot they had the Botulus on there. I was looking for breakers on the table. All right, so that gets a counter on the Echo, which is nice. That's obviously good into the Botulus. Admittedly, eventually it'll scale out of it. But here they can break as many subroutines as they want. They still lose a click on res, which is nice. So they hit an agenda here. And we also know, like with the Spin Doctor, there's 4 points out of the deck. So it's much harder to hit an agenda here, especially because so much of this is about the one big agenda. They imp the wave. That's okay. Draw a card, gain credit. All right, so they know that they can run R&D every turn if they really want to. We're expecting 2 more imps. Probably more time bombs as well. But we are going to have to Biotic out pretty aggressively. And if they don't take a single core damage, second imp, we could probably purge that, honestly. I think we're just going to go random again. They saw the top of the deck. Oh, no, they didn't because they imped it. I think we're just going to purge here. Like, I don't want to deal with that imp. That's way better for them than us, as much as purging this is pretty bad. But dealing with an imp is really good. Like, there's not simul chips, so maybe there's a Katurga. But yeah, I don't want to deal with the imp. What happens if they run HQ? Pulse? That's fine. They just can't face check into bloop. I think we just need to get an agenda behind this bloop, and we're in an okay spot. But yeah, I'll purge out an imp. Admittedly, like the Augustina click, last click, like I see why they want to do that. But with Banhard, they can contest HQ. Immediately with the Banhard, they can contest the remote server too. We'll res the Pulse, makes all these bigger too. This one, sorry, it gets bigger. So this one will fire. So that's going to be 2 net damage because Banhard targeted HQ. So they get an axis here. Hit Nightmare Archives, that's the best case. So what do they lose? They hit the Nightmare Archives. Okay, let's see if they take another negative point or they want to take a single core damage. Again, single core damage is so important. They're on 0 agenda points. They lost the Katurga, so they are on recursion. They lost the Katurga there to the net damage. But now they know it's on HQ, so it's just a matter of time before the Buzzsaw comes down. All right, well, hey, sometimes that happens. Okay, what do we do here? I think we need to get the Brawn down. They're probably going to finality us. I think the Pulse is quite reasonable. We can just get the Pulse there. I think this remote server is like very, very fine. If anything, we put something cheap in front of this, like a wave, because we need the bloop to connect. But their economy hasn't been massive as much as like we're getting attritioned down by just like all these like minor sabotage effects. So I think we are going to put this on R&D just to keep them out there because the game is obviously in R&D right now. Worth noting I don't know what happens when the bloop gets res. Do we get a counter then it gets T-res? Because this is an additional cost to res. So I reckon this isn't resed when this is resed. So this will only be on 4 after we re-res it, which like maybe that beats the Echo. They're cycling imps. Again, we do have the Spin Doctor on the table, but we'll easily throw out the Nightmare. And now it's hard to get value. They're running archives here. This wave is good enough. Again, it makes this a bit better. Search R&D for a piece of ice. I think we'll get the bloop again. That's a really well-positioned piece of ice. These subroutines are going to fire. Oh, just kidding. It's going to be net damage. That's fine. That's better than the credits, I reckon. And here we have to pop the Spin Doctor. Okay, we have that. We're going to Biotic that out, probably. We'll bring back the 3-pointer almost definitely, as much as we could feed them 3 points to get a free, a big old bloop. That's kind of cool. Or even the Brawn. Like, do we give them 3 points? Probably not. They're going to take a Nightmare, though. Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'll just take the Elevigao back. Maybe we should give them 3 points and get a free Brawn. That actually might be worth it. It depends what they do with this Nightmare. I don't know if they want to go down to -1 point. Maybe you can take I think you can take a single core damage. No, they went to negative points. Okay. But a single core damage is like, ontological becomes a 3-2 is like reasonable, a blank 3-2. Just more core damage is a problem. And it's hard for us without a jupe stat. Hey, jupe stat. I think we jupe stat him. So either we Biotic this out or we just do jupe stat luminal. Ooh, that's pushing it. Because the question is, can they get through this bloop? They don't have enough botchless counters. I think we can consider, but they might like Banhard that, but they can't. They would also need 2 things. I'm going to go for it. This is a bit risky. We'll just gain 3 here. This is a bit risky, but like this sometimes looks like a Managarm or like a Hendrick, and they might not want to deal with it because I don't know how they're going to deal with this ice. Immediately they can Banhard through it, but then this thing has 3 subroutines, so they're 1 short. Looks like HQ is the target. Again, they just want to get imp value. And that makes sense. But luckily, we're going to be able to Luminal, Jupestad. Maybe we can Purge after scoring the Luminal. I'd be probably pretty fine with that. And doing a single core damage is kind of all we want to do. That's the really important thing. Yeah, once the Buzzsaw comes down, obviously totally different game here. Maybe we'll end up getting the bloop on HQ. I think we can just about afford it, especially if we can get the Regolith and the remote server in the following turn. But now every top deck Elevigao is just sent. All right, well, that's unfortunate. Oh, the same message again. Okay, well, we only have 1 more Spin Doctor. Anytime we sabotage, it can just be off the top. If they hit the Spin Doctor, that's pretty bad for us. I think we're going to purge through this. Okay. So how expensive is this? Pretty expensive. So we'll res this, advance, 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 score, take a core damage. They lost a Tranquilizer. I'm glad to not have to get that to happen. Revolver's coming down so they can deal with sentries, but not like infinitely. We're only on 4 credits, so we can res 1 of these. I'm just going to go ahead and purge to clear the imp, let alone obviously reset these, but these always grow back. Their MU is full for what it's worth as well, but not that they need to keep this imp around. But this is like one of the better ways, I guess, to deal with a bloop. A lot of subroutines is obviously not great. I don't know if they're going to be on Poison Vial, but it's 4 credits. That's okay. I think it's the only sentry we're playing on the list too. No more Drafter in standard. Banhar is on HQ. Again, you can just fly in for damage. The imp doesn't matter so much. And just putting anything in the remote server is going to force them to use a Revolver, which is great. So we can do credit, hedge fund, install. And then if we just top deck an Elevigao, we can just go ahead and like get some value. Sabotaging here is a bit rough. I'm gonna get rid of the bloop is really good because they have Revolver. I'm gonna go for the top. Oh no, I would love to draw that. That's 4 points in archives. That was such a good top deck. It really doesn't help us win, but a second core damage means all the ontologicals in the deck becomes 2/2s, which is kind of the best place they can be in. So we have to go a bit fast because archives is getting away from us. Yeah, maybe we should have been safe there. There was still only 2 Elevigaos, and 1 Spin Doctor is going to be the most important one. Okay, Echo, they don't have an answer to. That's obviously quite good. So we can go do that. I don't think we're going to put an Echo in archives because it just like, you know, just This is just a speed bump. It's still going to be a problem if we can't get those cards out of there. I don't think we're going to lose soon enough off of archives alone. But we'll see if this forces a run again. Fermenter, taking up Banhar. Let's see if they choose server 1. They choose HQ again. Again, they can run HQ for free. And this is the first encounter. So if they run through it and botch us, they can't come back. But I'm totally fine with this run here. Wonder if this is just for a time bomb. Because I feel like if we had an agenda, it'd probably be in the remote server. They don't have an imp, right? Echo. Okay. Yeah, there you go. It's a time bomb. Getting scary. Again, with 3-mana archives, they can check archives relatively safely as much as this might be core damage. Okay, this is a 3-2. So we can always just biotic this out, go down to 2 credits. I think we can hold for 1 more turn. I think we're going to res this, take some money off of it, and then just IHAQ slightly. I think the Echo holds better than anything. And then next turn, we'll biotic this out because it's a 3-2, making the next one's a 2-2, and that's how we're going to win the game. We're going to score 1 ontological out as a 3-2, and then a core damage, hopefully from the jupe stat, makes the second one a bit easier. Okay, time bomb. It's at 2. Again, it hits a hit 3 and then another turn, if I'm not mistaken. And Banhar, we'll see where they target this. They can obviously like sail through our Echo, which is the worst place. They put on archives. I think there's a chance that if they steal these 2, like we're happy to get a good old Brawn resed. And it might slow them down again, or they might actually end up taking core damage if they run here. Yeah, they're going to end up taking core damage. I honestly don't know if the net damage is worth giving us. Oh, that's a lot of money actually. Fire all, they take a net damage. So here they can't take 2 core damage. So they're going to have to take a core damage. They don't have enough clicks. They don't know there's 2 agendas in here. So send a message. That's good. We're going to get a free Brawn. Immediately Pentagraph fires, but if they install this card, they flatline. That's really funny. So we'll do Thule first. Give them less information. Okay. Send a message. We'll get the Brawn. Okay, that's fine. They're on 3 points. That's okay. We could be doing a lot worse. And here they're going to take core damage. Hit a Steel Skin Scarring. Oh, that's so sick. But now they're on 2 core damage. So with the ontological, we can just wipe the regolith and put them on 1. So we can do install, advance. Wait, this is a 2-2. So we do install, advance, yeah. And now they're on 3 core damage. So the whole game is about R&D. And luckily we got a Brawn resed for free. Hit another Pantograph. They weren't going to install that. But now there is 2 more ontologicals in the deck that are 1-2s, right? So we can even like mass draw. We can even biotic draw if we need to. If we ever top deck one and we have at least like 5 credits, we can like biotic just to make sure that if we don't have enough clicks left. Time bomb is next turn. So we're going to probably have to not, we're just going to wipe HQ. Also, if we top deck like Vitruvius, we win this turn. This is exciting. As much as they're sitting back and trying to ping us with damage, like they're not getting a lot of accesses, and admittedly our ice is like relatively difficult. This is going to be an Echo. It only has 1 subroutine. Mind you, this is a really scary one, but that's going to be 1 net damage, and I don't think we mind the access here. And Banhar is really good. I'm really into Banhar. They lost a cookbook. I'm not surprised they're playing that. That makes a lot of sense with Agustina. I'm really interested to see how much sabotage Agustina ended up doing. They got it down early, which is quite cool. All right, they're through that. They get an access here. Biotic. That's never good to know. There are a whole bunch of top decks that win us the game here. And they're only on 2 hand size. Not that we're on like adjusted into like kill, which I think any deck here could easily be. Snares are also kind of scary. We can planogram to draw 3. Shit, we didn't find it. We got the Vitruvius instead. So there's still 2 and 9, and the time bomb's going to go off. That's really, really quite ugly. So I think we're just going to score this out to do another core damage. That's like, okay. If we do biotic, we can't score the Vitruvius. We're 1 click short. So I think we can just do Elevagao. Whatever. Oh, no, we can't. Hold on. Wait. We'd have to biotic that out. I don't want to do that. I think we're just going to install this to force them into server. Sorry, wrong install. That's really ugly because now they know that is or isn't an agenda, obviously, like anything else is. And we're just going to put this on archives. Actually, no, I'd rather sabotage this. We have to sabotage 3, and we can easily throw out like an Elevagao and then an Echo and a Loup. So I don't think we mind. We just don't want to sabotage the top of R&D because obviously there's 2 and 9 to hit, what's it called? The ontologicals. I think here they obviously know that we don't have the ontologicals. So running HQ is like mediocre. But running R&D with a finality is like game winning, especially because they don't have to worry about the Brawn. I think there's actually a big chance putting an Echo instead of clicking for a credit on R&D is right. We'll do 1 from the deck. We lost a Spin Doctor. That's fine. That was the last one, but ontologicals are now 1 and 4 on R&D. Yeah, they have to run this. I like this a lot. So if we res this, we go down to 6. That's still really fine. It means that the Echo will have enough subroutines that they can't get through. I think that's fascinating. So we'll res this to de-res that. So it doesn't get a counter. That answers our question. But now when we re-res this Echo, it'll have 6 end the run tokens. So here they're getting 3 net damage, which will be lethal. So they actually have to break some of it because their hand size is way too low. So they're going to pay 4 and 3 bullets. Not too bad. 4 for this is really good. So here we can choose to res this. If we do, it drops us to 4 credits. I think this looks like a spin doctor. Okay, so now this has to end the run. It has 6 end the runs. I think that's the most I've ever seen on a single echo. But unfortunately, they're 1 botulus too short. Okay. Now they can run R&D. It's a bit harder with the Brawn. We have ice that we can actually recover if they ever let the first Brawn subroutine fire. And we only need 2 credits to score out next turn. Actually, yeah, 1 credit is enough. That's a really fun interaction. The 1 botulus short potentially, but that's obviously not the agenda. As much as we could have put the Vitruvius in there. Resting actually was maybe a bit wrong, right? Because otherwise we've been on 6. I guess we need 7 to Biotic out. Yeah, that's a bit ugly. We need 7 to Biotic out. We probably should have tried to float 7. Maybe they'll fire a wave running archives. I think there's a chance on what could possibly be the last turn that they'll run archives. Yeah, this actually gets how much credits? 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 credit wave. Counter of times Andre has said something to the effect this is just incorrect. Just one. Counter of times Andre has said something to the effect of this is just incorrect. No, this is going okay. This is going quite okay. That's kind of you. Yeah, no, it's going quite okay. I don't know if they knew that I don't know if they knew this was a bloop. I know they know that we pulled up bloop, but it's not this. Yeah, now this fires. So we actually can Biotic out here. That's so sick. Again, 6 credits off a wave is awesome. And admittedly, like this gets buzzsawed. So like, what are you going to expect? There's nothing we can do here. There's no agendas in there. They have 2 clicks left. It's hard just a time bomb down. So we're going to be able to Biotic out if we can't draw into our agenda. Oh, we found it. Sick. Okay. So install. Advance, score. Another core damage. They're on 4. Good game. Things were dicey there for a moment. They didn't get the Breaker Suite up. Yeah, we got our ice together. They didn't get the Cleaver down. Admittedly, they didn't really need to. They have a lot of viruses and they have the Augustine package to make that work. But the Banhart pressure is really quite good. They got a fair few accesses on HQ. I think that's the only thing is like understanding like, oh, if we had it, would have gone to the remote server. So do you run HQ? Imps are good pressure though. And we did ice up and it kind of slowed down our early game. But hey, we got away with it again. If without these Nightmare archives, they're on game point, right? They're just on game point. This thing buys you so much grace period. It makes the game so much longer. Yeah, Banner is ridiculous. Man, this card's good. Cool. Let's do another one. All right, we've been playing against only Anarch tonight. Essa, Sabotage, 45 cards. This is Diogene. Hey, Diogene, from my local meta. I'm not sure what exactly the build's going to be. I imagine Banhar, maybe some Mayfly, some aggression. Probably say hi from Montreal. Our opening hand's okay. We get double pulse, which like, yeah, eventually Buzzsaw comes down and this thing is worthless. But it's nice to get an early harmonic up. We could get the Regolith behind the pulse, but we're not actually like in a huge rush to do that considering we have Planogram and Hedge Fund for economy. And again, hey, you need a lot of economy in Thule generally, especially when you're trying to Biotic at everything. Oh, hey, Nana, you want to play HB too? Okay. All right. It's core damage. I published a Thule deck recently. Oh, I think I saw it. You called out the agenda math. Nana's going to join us on this one. All right. Okay, we got some support from Nana. I appreciate that. And we're off. So against Essa, you're expecting, what's it called? You're expecting finality. You're expecting Chestushka. It's a bit hard to Chestushka turn 1, but we're going to ice up essentials a wee bit, at least early, because there's a lot of pressure there. And that's that. From here, if we take core damage, we can always throw out a Planogram. We can actually sabotage a bit easier than some other decks. I'll res a pulse here. It's fine. If Diogene wants to get an access, he's going to end up taking a core damage if he steals an agenda because he's going to lose a click to this. Let's go. Loses a credit, but you're going to get it back. Raindrops into double subroutine ices. Sick. That's a really good raindrops. As much as a single access, we almost definitely shouldn't have res there. Yeah, resing there was a huge mistake. Definitely shouldn't res that. Now, Diogene has no clicks left here, so I think the error is going to be rewarded with another error. I don't think you take an access against Thule this early because there's a lot of punishment here. Unfortunately, no agenda, but we have 11 and 43. I think it's 11 and 43. So that could have been a free core damage as much as Essa is going to take core damage anyways. Maybe it's not that bad. All right, well, we got some card draw if we want it. I guess we do. Draw 3. Nice. Echo into remote server is good enough. And we can put the Regolith behind it. If that sticks, we got economy. We have economy regardless what happens. We have a snare in hand too for pressure. But yeah, we definitely shouldn't have let that raindrops through. We're not going to let this raindrops through. We're going to learn a lesson. Yeah, that's fine. Snare hit a steel skin. We don't have enough credits. We can still res the echo and get out of it. Cool thing is you can res the echo and then still predictive and res the Regolith. That's kind of the cool value predictive here. But it looks like we're on low credits. What else did we hit there? We hit a Chestushka. Oh, hitting a fermenter is really, really big for obvious economy reasons. And we're just going to be able to recover from this. So you generally need a pinhole here, which a lot of the Essa decks kind of fall slots to the side. Hasn't been a single core damage so far, but again, Essa doesn't mind so much. I'm so happy, Nana, you joined. Not a big HB fan, but I get it. Checking archives here. I'm imagining this over a logic. What's it called? A time bomb. Yeah, there you go. I wonder if you just want to poke HQ after the draw there. Maybe you're worried about face checking into it. Again, a bloop could have been face checked into, and that would have been, again, core damage, which admittedly Essa finds to be a bit more interesting than some other runners. Steel skin, that's number 2. And how many raindrops are out? Just 2 as well. Okay. So here we're set up to biotic out. I do think we probably like botchless through this is just as good as botchless through any ice. I think we have the money to like comfortably draw 3 here. This is an, yeah, we can definitely Hansei out this, and then we probably just ice HQ a wee bit better. So we can Hansei out this, because that's generally what we want to Hansei. Admittedly, keeping us in hand is like never the worst thing to do on the basis that like sabotage is going to happen, and like that's a cool card to throw out. And I think we're just going to put this on HQ as well. We have to ice up centrals a bit better than anything else on the basis that, well, Justucia is going to happen, but more so that we're a fast advance deck. All right, they lost, they're finaliting through the pulse. I like it. How many snares are left in there? Just 1. So we have to sabotage. Hand seems good. Okay. They're going to lose a click and a credit. So it's very easy to take core damage here. And because S has already taken a core damage, this is actually a really favorable time to take multiple core damage. So now the ontologicals are 3-2. We can fast advance it out. Okay. Ooh, Luminal's a good hit. Oh, uh-oh. That's the 1 3-pointer. At least we get a bronze for free. But that's another core damage. So yeah, that can't be good. Sometimes this one doesn't come up. It's the 1 of 3 of the deck. So that's the issue too, is like there's a big chance Essa doesn't care about the Nightmare Archives as much as Diogene's on 3 cards. Okay, well, we just have to kind of not lose now. So install advance works, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now I think the top of R&D is known. Saw 4. Oh, time bomb's going off. Time bomb's really scary, but admittedly, if Diogene saw the top of R&D, like we can time bomb at least 1 card safely. Just click for credits. Okay, we need to find a spin doctor. I'm going to draw 3 here. We have a simulation reset, so we're going to ice up R&D. So even if this time bomb goes bad and hits a Vitruvius or Ontologic, we don't lose. So I'm going to put this on archives just because the time bomb is going to be a bit rough. Jupe stat is kind of interesting, but not the priority here. And then we're going to try and score out next turn the Elevagao and go from here. All right, because here on 5 points with not hitting a Nightmare Archives, we lose on a single sabotage, which is not going to be great. So we'll get rid of this and then we can go 2 random. Double Nightmare in Archives, that's really good because it's going to be hard to take 2 core damage. We haven't seen a Marrow yet. Okay, we have an interesting game. What do you think, Nana? Oh, straight Justucia. I like this because likely we're going to get the simulation reset back. So Braun, I'm going to click through that. And if you click through that, the pulse doesn't actually do anything. Full click through it. Okay, so the simulation reset is going to be really easy to get good value from. Do we res this? The pulse, I don't think we res it. Justucia, fire 4. Okay, so I think we can get rid of the Jupe set pretty safely, and then we'll just do 3. So we lost a spin doctor. Okay. All right, well, let's see what we top deck. We got a snare in hand. Okay, so we know that R&D is totally safe. We're actually not that interested to go ahead and simulation reset. It's something we can do, but it's something we don't have to do. Now, what can we do here? We can do install advance that. Obviously, the ontologicals, that's where the game is. The wave into pulse doesn't end anything. We can lose to a single, what's it called? Deep dive, but like a single finality. But yeah, this ice is going to look better than it is. I think we just do new remote server score. I don't think we really want to de-res a Regolith. Like, I think we're going to maybe get the full money off of this. I don't think we have to pay 2 to get more. But you can always de-res this. I just don't think we're going to need enough money for that to matter. We just need to draw into ontologicals. There's Marrow. Okay, we can still just rip from the top. We lost a Vitruvius. We have to bring that back because that is game in archives. So we're going to simulation reset. What are we throwing out? I think we're throwing out the bloop and probably the snare we want to keep. 5 hand size though. Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll shuffle back the spin doctor and the Vitruvius. We draw 2. We have an Elevagao in hand. I think the magnet's reasonable. In terms of Justucias, we've seen 2 so far. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of money real fast for another one to happen. I think Magnet and R&D is very reasonable. I think losing this doesn't really change much else. You'd have to lose both Elevagaos. So I think we can just get this trashed, get the Magnet on R&D, and we can just get some money. Resing the Magnet is going to be really important. Nana, what are you doing down there? That's not a spot for a cat. Okay. Okay, bye now. Nougat for 3. Diogene, not a lot of money. It's hard to get burst economy from this spot, but Banhar is going to put that pressure on. We can see Banhar into finality as soon as next turn. Luckily, we do have a spin doctor. So what do we do here? If we install the Spin Doctor, we need to find another ice. I'm going to try and push for it. We can always Biotic. Ooh. Oh, that's bad. Okay, that's quite bad. Now, admittedly, it could be good. We could actually win next turn, I think. How much core damage you have to take? We have to do 2 installs and then like 2 advances. Okay. Okay, I do think there's a chance that we have to Biotic to get the bloop on R&D. So install, I think we have to get the bloop on R&D. I don't know if there's going to be like you don't Chastushka with a Spin Doctor, but I think a finality is going to be set up. Where did they mark? They marked archives. Okay, that's what he marked. Okay, but I think there's a chance that you go advance, Biotic, advance. Yeah, I think we have to. Just have a click left. We have to trash a card from HQ. Whatever. That's ugly. No, we have to make this survive. So the question is, do we survive on R&D or HQ? I think we're more worried about R&D. Something like that. This doesn't end the run, but rezzing this is going to make us, oh, we actually can't even res the bloop. We might have made an error. We can't res the bloop because we trashed the card that we need. Okay, that's an echo though. So that's going to be a core damage. So now we can res this. We're on 3 credits, which is all we need. So this means the Nightmare Archives are going to fire. So this is going to be a single net damage. 2 clicks left here. And we only need a credit here. So the question is, do we Spin Doctor back? With 2 clicks left, like I think if stealing the Elvigao doesn't matter because it's very likely that there's a win on a single core damage anyways. The problem though is that we have to sabotage from hand. Oh no, we have to sabotage. No pop? Dang. No, that's fine. We have to like, if they steal and take core damage, then we have to sabotage and he continues to access those cards. So we'll see what he does here. He pays. Honestly, if Diogene takes the core damage, we have to sabotage. Okay, now with the Nightmare Archives, it's going to happen anyways. So I think we're going to do the Spin Doctor and one from the top. We just have to hope it's not an agenda off the top. It is an agenda. Shit. Good game. Yeah, that was unlucky. Not sure. Not sure that it's a good game. That's rude. Mid trash. No. I just had to hope. I had to hope the one on top of R&D wasn't an agenda. So looking back at that, we had to hope the top of R&D was an agenda. And there's only 3 more agendas and 10 cards. So not the best odds there because all the Vitruviuses weren't accounted for. But we couldn't have sabotaged anything from HQ. I think we definitely gooped it up with the bloop. Like if we didn't install the bloop there, we could have trashed the bloop and then we would have sabotage 2 on HQ. We would have thrown out a bloop in the Spin Doctor and that would have been totally fine, depending on what Diogene did for the last click. But otherwise, yeah, we had it obviously the next turn for sure out of hand. Yeah, losing the 1 3-pointer is like a bit rough, but like getting the Brawn res was not irrelevant for the game. So I don't mind it so much. It's more so that last one sabotage mattered a fair bit more. I think, again, if we didn't Biotic and we didn't bloop, we could have thrown out those 2 cards and then we would be able to score it from hand. And that would have been probably a lot better. All right, we're back at it and started playing some Thule Fast Advance. We made some small changes to this list. We dropped the pulses because they felt pretty bad. We're on 2 magnets, which is quite good against the Anarchs. You're seeing everyone is playing botchless, of course. And we dropped 1 Jupstad to play 2 Hendrix. So we're only on, what is it, 11 ice, which obviously isn't great against Zahya opening. Echo in hand is okay. Hanse is a bit ugly in this hand. We're going to mulligan. If we just get an ice on HQ, we're in a good spot. Let's see how bad this can be. It's really difficult. I find Pulse to be in a really weird place. Like in the early game, it's okay. But in the mid game, when people are breaking it either, you know, without a breaker or with a buzzsaw, like both of those cases are pretty bad for you. We're also kind of struggling sometimes. The games we lose are the games where Nightmare Archives doesn't work. So I don't know if we can actually afford to discard these into archives because I feel like a lot of runners are respecting that and just like not running archives. And that's obviously an issue. We draw 3. It'll be bad. It'll be rough unless we draw into ice. So I'm going to go for it. We'll probably get economy here and an ice. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. So we'll get the Echo early, put that on HQ, and we'll put this one on R&D. We have to discard a card here. Unfortunately, we are going to get rid of the first Nightmare Archives. I do think there's a chance you're going to see some mark cards. So maybe Zahya is going to red team archives. I think criminals are more likely to run archives than anything. But we have this combo set up. Carpe Diem. Ooh, what's the mark? Archives. Not going for the run. See? No real reason to access a face down card. But yeah, I do think keeping these in centrals might be a bit better. No free lunch coming down again. There is some distributed tracing threat that people respect, whether it's hypoxia and the line. So I'm not too surprised about that. All right, let's get some stuff on the table. Again, our economy here is pretty bad. We're going to need to get an economic play. I don't think we can afford for the Jupstad, but if this eats like a inside job or like any sort of trick. I think we're okay with that. Even if this gets pinhole threading, it's like totally reasonable. Jailbreak, smashing into the Echo. We're going to res that. That's going to end the run. It's nice to get an Echo res. Now Blue has to be respected. Also getting the Echoes res as soon as possible is the most important thing. It's the best ice to res early. Speak of that. Well, I think we're going to res this. As much as we're on 2 credits here, at least we have 2 subs here on the Echo itself, on the HQ Echo. But this is not going to do anything anytime soon. Jailbreak into R&D. This one's going to go through, but at least we'll get an ice from the deck. Here, what ice do we want? I think we want the Bloop, as expensive as it is. At least we got a lot of end the runs. We're taking a non-agenda out of the deck, so this is a bit ugly. This is going to be a card draw and 2 credits. Of course, 2 axes as well, and we can't fire Snare, but that's fine. That's a lot of subroutines really fast. 5 subroutines on 1 turn. Yeah, right? Tell me about it. Echo has never felt as good. Yeah, that's really good. So we'll see what the breaker is. I'm pretty sure Tremolo breaks 2 subroutines per break. Okay, so they don't steal, they don't trash, but they get 2 credits and the card draw from Jailbreak. And they know they can just like plant through the wave as much as like this is 3 credits. Wait, did we not fire that? Oh, we didn't even fire that. I forgot to fire wave. Yeah, we should be on 3 credits. Thank you. All right, that's good because now we can like afford the bloop. The question is how soon are we going to see a breaker? We have the Hansei review. I think there's a big chance that we just do credit Hansei review and throw out either the magnet or the snare. There's also a chance that you throw out the Elevagao, but Elevagao inside atop of Jupestad is our next play for the next turn. Again, just giving 1 core damage is the biggest deal for the ontologicals that we can biotic out. But I think we just need to get money. Let's just throw out. I don't want to do the Elevagao because we have a play next turn with it, so I'm going to throw out the snare. And we can always de-res the wave if we really want to. Magnet. It's important to keep ice in this matchup, right? Like, as much as net damage is good, paying 4 is probably going to be a bit much, but like getting something good on HQ is going to be really important because it's just a matter of time before the Waking Plan comes down. So I think if anything, we're going to bloop HQ and then maybe magnet R&D down the line. But I think ideally we spend 6 next turn. And yeah, we got a core damage off this turn. Nice, Biotic in hand. So we'll do server 1, advance. Before we score, we'll res this thing, score. That does 1 core damage. We hit an inside job. That's a good target. And we're going to de-res the wave. Admittedly, re-resing the wave costs 2 credits, but it gets us an ice back. I think we're on the verge of that not being possible. Yeah, I don't think that's possible. If we want to de-res something with the bloop, maybe we de-res that. If our money was a bit better, like if we were on 9 credits, I would de-res it. But having to res this to go down to 2, it's probably pretty bad. And here, they're not going to do anything until they get breakers. Again, so much of their value is attached to getting successful runs. And we've iced up everything relatively well. This is also kind of scary too. Again, if we bioticed out for 7, at this board state, we could consider doing it if we had 7 credits, just because all our ice is relatively res. And while they can just like smash through wave, 3 credits for us for no clicks is a lot of money. So we'll be happy if they just plant through this. Just card, credit again. They have a lot of money. They have 6 more credits on no free lunch. So just them producing breakers next turn, I think is like the big scary thing. Info bounty in the bin. All right, well, not much to worry about here. I think we're more worried about HQ, so we'll put this in front of HQ and just click for 2 credits. Again, they know we have a bloop in hand because we got it with the wave. And here we can res both of these in theory, but they're just drawing up. Verbal, it's not going to do anything this turn, but next turn is pretty good. And there's a leech, so that's actually a good reason for them to run archives. Spin Doctor, I'm not going to put it into the Jupestad. We want to get a hedge fund here off the top. I think Planogram is good enough. We'll just gain 3. And we're going to put this on archives. Just to make sure it's harder to get leech value, let alone if they're playing Sneak Door, or again, we did see the info bounty, maybe red team as well. But this means that running archives is just a bit harder. Yeah, also if we get this res, it's obviously really nice for the double echo. But next turn we can consider just bioting out the ontological to put them to 2 core damage, which like makes this game quite different when we can start winning with the ontologicals just from hand. Now Verbal's getting 2 card draw. Revolver is a really good way to deal with bloop. Carpe Diem. Run is on HQ. Here, they're going to force us out if they want to run, but they don't. And Revolver deals with bloop really well. It just doesn't deal with it forever. All right, so this is 7 credits. Do we pay 7 credits to do another core damage? That will drop us to 1, which means we can't res the wave or the bloop. I don't think we care about resing HQ much. We have the echo. I think this is on the cusp of being rough, but I think we're going to do it just because, again, the core damage is so important. That's another core damage. We hit a pinhole. That's actually quite good. That's the way they can threaten the Jupestad. But now they're on 2 core damage, so every single ontological we top deck is scoreable in the remote server. So we have a lot of agendas we can just rip off the top. Again, of course, we're going to need money back, but we have a Spin Doctor on the table to shuffle back into predicted planograms. And I think we're actually going to do that sooner than later, even before we mandatory draw, just because I want to be able to not spend our turn clicking for credits. Mutual favor, we'll see a Fractor here. Yeah, it's a Corroder. That's actually okay. That breaks these for 1 for sub. Corroder is 1 for 1 subroutine, 1 for 1 strength, coming out at 2. You often see Cleaver a bit more than Corroder, I think. Even I think the fractors you have access to in Criminal are not that bad, but Croter's like the staple. They threw out a Verbal, a Chesva, a Revolver, and Inside Job, so their hand is pretty good as much as their hand is only 3 cards. I'm going to use this just to get some money back in, let alone potential card draw. All right, Magnet seems reasonable, but here we're just going to click 3, unfortunately. Again, we need R&D to hold up. The whole game is in R&D. They're trying to draw into breakers, and they get a double draw every turn. And we top deck an Elevagal. We'll probably score it out just for the core damage. We have a Corroder here. The Revolver, if it hits the Bloop, it lets us de-res the Echo too, which is nice. Not that we can re-res it. But here, the Bloop is 5 strength, so Revolver, to get to strength, you're spending 4 credits, and then you're using half the bullets. I think we have to res it. We just have to tax it out. I think I'm going to de-res the Echo. They have a lot of money. This taxes them 3 or 4. Otherwise, R&D is wide open. I don't want R&D to be open, so I'm going to do that. Next turn, we can res the Echo. But this is a big old sentry. Again, the Bloop forces the de-res, so they spend 4 and half the bullets, so the gun will go quickly. They know we can't res this. They get an Axis here, which is a credit. And there's no real good hit there besides potentially the Hendrick, and we can install Hendrick wherever we want. This is the new addition to the deck. It's okay. It's fine. I think at this point they could consider threatening the server. It is pretty expensive, mind you. It's 7 credits to run this, as much as they have 6 credits offshored. But here they're going to discard 2 more cards. They threw out a Marjana and a Wake, so they actually have Fractors in faction. Okay, we need 7 credits for that. Unfortunately, nothing to do here. We have 3 Planograms we could have drawn to get out of that hole. Next turn, just about all our econ cards we can draw and play. So even just getting like a Regolith, we'll probably just push and res it. Okay, it's an Endurance. Of course it is. We haven't seen a console yet. I think, again, there's very little reason in startup not to play this in basically every faction. 5 influence. Again, most of the consoles you're splashing, if you are splashing, come at 3 influence. So this is a good start. All right, Wave. We do have Snare credits. Not that it's going to be lethal. I don't even know if we want to fire Snare on this board state. But they're going through the Wave here, so we just need another ice in front of here. It can be anything. And it'll be good enough. Again, also Nightmare Archives are out of the game. Spin Doctor got trashed. That's a good hit for sure. Okay. Luminal. Okay, so that's 7. So I think we just click 3 this turn and probably discard something. That means next turn we can Biotic out a Luminal, and that means we can get back into it. But unfortunately, yeah, we'll see if they get Aggression on HQ. The Echo is pretty expensive. We're going to throw out the Magnet here. I think throwing out the Hendrick is reasonable, but at some point trading credits for this is good. Again, we have a lot of burst economy in our deck. Right now, we've been clicking for credits for a couple turns, unfortunately, as unexciting as that is. But our deck has Hansei, 3 Hedge Fund, 3 Regolith, 3, what's it called? I think we trade the Wave here. It doesn't give another Echo counter here, but it gets us to pull an Echo, which is reasonable. So we can't Biotic this turn. But yeah, we have a lot of econ draw. We just haven't drawn into it. So they're going to Endurance through that. So the Endurance is now cooked, which is great. They hit a Nightmare Archives, which is also fantastic. If they take a core damage there, so be it. So negative point, fantastic. And they see that we're playing Snare, let alone that's the second Spin Doctor, but they trashed that a turn ago. Yeah, I don't know. I think early iterations of this deck had Pop-Up Window, and I think dropping the Snare for Pop-Up Window is like kind of reasonable. Just because, like, I don't know, we're kind of weak and we're soft and we need more ice and slightly more economy. I think we might actually drop the Snares for pop-ups. Chesva, that's going to make running cheaper as much as they're going to need breakers for it. And there's a Jupe stat. Okay, so if we install this, click for 2. Again, I don't know if they're going to run R&D until they find a breaker yet, but that means next turn we can Biotic out. Again, there's a big chance we haven't drawn to any economy, unfortunately. Getting rid of the Jupe stat, I don't think we need it anymore, and it's technically a trashable. But now they're running relatively cheap. Even like this gets a bit easier. Jailbreak HQ is going to be really good here. Yeah, that's good. They're going to see 2 here, gain 2. Draw a card. That's obviously great. Leech is going to save a fair bit of money. But now the Revolver is done, so it's going to be both through this. We have to res this. It's 4 subroutines, which is relatively good. That's 4 credits, mind you. This Echo is pretty reasonable too. In terms of inside jobs, I think we've seen 2 so far. Yeah, we've seen 2 so far. So like pushing their remote server is kind of reasonable. Okay, Luminal, horrible hit for us. Let's see what they spend here. So if they hit the Vitruvius there, we take another core damage, but they stole our good 3-2. And we're off of, I swear, if we had to click for 3 credits again, like there's so much economy in our deck. Unfortunately, their Endurance is charged up. If we trade a Hendrick, I think it's fine again. They're far away from winning the game. I think just another Echo is reasonable, as much as like the Echo allows them to use the Chesva credits. The Wave just pulls cards out of our deck. I don't want to do that. I think we're just gonna click for 3 here. I think the Magnet's very reasonable. However, it's basically 4 credits. It's half our money, and we just haven't drawn economy at all. They only have 10 more cards. Mind you, we have 1 more Snare left in the deck. Sure gamble. They have good money. They want to run once a turn if they can. It's just hard to do it cheaply. If they go through in a wave, they give us 4 credits, which is on the cusp of being okay. Obviously, we care about money. We've been clicking for credits, but looks like we're going to Biotic out, go down to 1 again. Drop them to only 2 hand size. Pinholes out? Okay. All right, that's fine. Server 1 Biotic. Advance, advance, advance. Score. That's another core damage. They lost a Unity. Wow. So they actually had the decoder in hand. I wonder if they're on a Cat's Cradle or something in faction. Now, going through the wave when we're on 1 credit is pretty bad. Here, we can top deck an ontological and score it out. Mind you, it's a 1-2 agenda. So we can even draw once or like draw into a burst card draw. There's only 2 left in R&D. As much as also there's 2 Elevagaos, which is another way to close the game, as much as that's going to be more expensive. Okay, they have another decoder. That's a Cat's Cradle. Now they're going to go through the waves relatively cheaply. And unfortunately, we can't fire Hendrik because we're 1 credit short. So wave, that's going to be 2 for strength, 1 to break. That's not too bad. Again, that can be saved by either Leech or Chesva. And now they're going to be able to make boat counters on the regular. So that's not good for us. As much as they haven't shown multi-axis just yet. We need to get something taxing here. And just a magnet's like good enough for Cradle as much as we can afford that. So Leech and Endurance, they're going to access the Hendrik first. I think you generally want to do the deck first. They use the Chesva to trash that and they see the Zahya. Nothing off the top of R&D. There's a Carmen, so they have permanent breaker suite. Again, 2 MU. It's another good reason why you want to play Endurance over everything else. And we have a planogram here. So we have a 1 in 12 chance of drawing into the winning agenda. Okay, well, we didn't, but it was worth a shot. Here, we actually can simulation reset. Unfortunately for us, like it puts cards obviously back in the deck, but it doesn't give us a lot of money. I think the second wave is kind of reasonable. They don't have unlimited econ. In fact, they have pretty limited economy. Unfortunately, installing anything here, we'd only be able to res it for 1 credit unless we predict a planogram as well. I like that we have 2 Nightmares in hand. I think we have to put something that kind of pseudo ends the run. So we'll put this on R&D. The Echo's not going to scale out that well, and then we'll just gain 3 credits. So now if they want to go through this, it's 3 credits a pop. So that's relatively expensive as much as they get 2 back and maybe save some money with Leech. But the game is all about R&D. I hope they run HQ here because we have double Nightmare. Yeah, that's good. Legwork, that's really good. There's a big chance you're going to go to negative points on this run. As much as this is going to give them 3 credits back, let's hit a bloop. Endurance doesn't deal with bloop very well. Carmen does it relatively well, especially with Leech counters. So that's 5 credits. 2 of them came off coffee. This is just 4 and they're on subroutines. Love it. Feeling actually relatively good. Take that envelopment. No free lunch getting a crack there, so they can go through for 4. And they're going to see a lot of cards. First Nightmare Archives. They can't take 2 core damage because it'll be lethal. There you go, -1 points. If we drew into any other agenda there, like that's a really well-timed legwork. Like mass draw, we don't push. Yeah, you go for it. Anything we draw, we can push in server 1 to force them through this. But like their economy has kind of slowed down. So if they don't have anything that gives them good economy over time, we're in a good spot. We'll res the wave again. We'll find an ice. I actually don't think we do. It pulls, there's only 2 ice though. Yeah. It just makes there's more agendas per cards now. So Leech, we're probably gonna have to Leech through both of these. So that's 1 credit. It's another wave. Again, we're on 0 credits, so we're not threatening Snare. We're not technically threatening even a top deck here. But they have to steal a lot of agendas. All right, that's more money. Endurance is at 4. No steal, no trash. Clicking for credits is probably where it's going to end up. Okay, well, obviously we have a hedge fund. Here, I think next turn we can simulation reset our whole hand to have a chance of drawing into an ontological. Because we'll have a credit and a click left after. That's 2 clicks left after simulation reset. So we can just like full send it if we really need to. All right, let's see how cheap this is. Wave, first one. Again, you can boat one of these, I reckon. If this fires, again, everything on the board is harmonic. So that's 3 credits, 1 with Chesva, only 1 with Chesva. This is 3 more credits again. You can use Wave, Leech to save a credit. So that was 5 credits, only 3 out of pocket. Saving Endurance counters for the future, I reckon. Not sure why. They're saving Endurance counters. I guess you can use them here, right? Like each Endurance counter here is worth about 3 credits. I think that's pretty reasonable. Because I don't know what else you're breaking. I guess Bloop, maybe? Credit, throwing out a Dawkins Pass. All right, we have a Regolith. Did we just crank the Regolith and hold on? Again, if we simulation reset, we can trash 5 cards. We can shuffle back in. I want to shuffle back in Snares, so I think we're just going to do this and get some money. If they trash this, it's totally fine. But R&D is relatively expensive. We could have got a second piece of ice there. I think we'll do that next turn. But there's a big chance we just like send it with simulation reset. And again, when we're just trying to score everything from hand, as you see, it's a lot harder where it's not about can you run the remote servers, can you get good accesses off centrals. And strangely enough, they haven't played like a Docklands any sort of multi-access. I don't think we've seen Awaken plan yet. Maybe they do have one, but maybe the bloop makes it too difficult. All right, so that's 3 again, 1, and this is 2 after Leech. Single access, again, they need a lot of agendas. They trash the Spin Doctor, so we have no more recursion barring the simulation reset, which will easily put the Spin Doctors back in. We're also drawing an unknown card here. Okay, Brawn is really good. That's just going to be taxing. But I think we're just going to simulation reset. We'll just throw out our whole hand. What are we shuffling back in? Okay, so we'll do Spin Doctor, Spin Doctor. They only have 3 cards left, so Snare seems good. And then I think we just do predictive. I think we actually do Biotic predictive, just because Biotic is another way that we can win. Well, that was genuinely pretty bad. All right, well, running HQ is a bit rough here. We can't really score out any of these, so I'm just going to take money. I think we maybe lose 1 of these. I probably don't lose 2. So now we have a 1 in 8 of drawing into a Biotic, and we can also just like double score out Elevagao over 2 turns. Even de-resing like an Echo for style if we want to. Oh no. Oh, that's a really good time legwork. I like this a lot. I do think they might just, there's a chance they die to core damage. They also die to Snare here, as they know. How bad can this be for us? So if they steal everything, they steal 2, 4, 5, only 6 points. So like they only on 5. And if that's the case, right, they have to take 1 core damage. So like they're on the cusp of just dying to this multi-access regardless that there's no snares in here. But like that's a well-timed legwork. I was wondering what the multi-access is, and it's this sort of like timed multi-access, which I'm a big fan of. This is going to be really expensive. I think they're going to die to core damage. I think they just don't have enough money because they have to Chesva through this. They could endurance through parts of it, but like if they're going to steal multiple agendas, they're going to take multiple core damage. So here, if they 100% die, there is no way they don't flatline to this axis, which is really funny. Hansei, and then they have to hit 2 agendas. This one, they have to take a core damage. The second agenda, they have to take a core damage. That's a good game. Good games, yeah. I had no snares in that one, but 4 agendas. Whew, yeah. So at that point, we were just waiting to score out. Again, 2 Elevagals would do it, Ontological would do it, Biotic will do it. And at this point, they didn't have like long-term economy. Like a lot of times you'll see again, like things like Red Team kind of work. Info Bounty definitely works, even Liberated counts. But if they're not cleaning for credits, all their economy is coming off of Chesva and Endurance, which is good. Yeah, funny enough, if they actually Endurance this Echo, if I'm not mistaken, they would have had enough credits to like not flatline there. But then next turn, I think we get them with the Elevagao. Not trashing the Jupestat is a huge mistake. Yeah. Yeah, so they're talking about how they probably should have trashed the Jupestat, and I think they should have. As much as it was really expensive to get through the Echo to trash the Jupestat, as once you take 2 core damage, the game is entirely different with us having 2 2s. So yeah, it's something you generally have to do. As much as the core damage it makes hand sides ugly, it's more so about the ontologicals and 2 more in the R&D. Yeah, we have 2 coming down. So next turn, if we install the Spin Doctor draw, if we don't want to go for the Elevagao, which is kind of a hard choice, we would have won out. Against Sable, so we made some slight changes. I think we pretty immediately pulled off the Hendrix. We're back to triple Dupestead, and then we're playing a Sprint in the list. Sprint's actually quite good. Again, we sometimes draw into really ugly hands, and we're inherently a combo deck to some extent. Dupestead also just seems more important. It's like the unfair thing we can do if it fires and a single core damage connects. That puts us closer to winning the game by a huge margin. Well, Hendrix is the sort of thing the runner has to mess up into, and I'll respect our opponents that they don't often do that because we're not jamming in the remote server. We're not making it hard for them. This hand against Sable, we want double ice. That's hard with, what is it, 11 ice, but we're not going to do this one. Oh, that's maybe arguably worse. And so maybe our Spin Doctor can like find a way out of this hole. Again, Wave is nice. Wave is like always reasonable. I think we'd rather have the bloop on HQ because HQ is not that soft, and we put the Wave on R&D, and hopefully Wave draws into an Echo, which means we can cheaply get the bloop up, stuff like that. Otherwise, I think that's kind of all we got here. When you face check on 6 credits and they don't res, you can kind of tell it's a bloop, unfortunately, when playing into Thule. Just because nothing else really makes sense. Maybe it's an on-sell, but kind of unlikely. Dirty Laundry just in archives. Again, that's the mark. No res bloop. Don't hit our Spin Doctor. Hit our Nightmare Archives. Okay, let's see how the game starts. Turn 1 core damage. Not a place you want to be. Turn 1 -1 agenda points. That's a bit better for us. Are they deep diving turn 1? I think they're deep diving turn 1. R&D for a piece of ice. This takes it out of the deck, which is obviously not good, but we'll get the Echo for sure. We'll get our credit back. It's hard to deep dive though. Just an Elevagao. So like here, if they steal it, they spend, unless they want to take a core damage. So that's a really good deep dive for us. Deep dive, mind you, they spent a lot of money getting this 0 agenda points. And they shuffle the deck. So they see a bit of our deck. Again, they know we're on Planogram, Jupstad, but like no real surprises there. And we top deck into the Luminal. So Bloop is good enough. Again, that is core damage that we want. I think we're just going to put this into a remote server and click for credit. I actually don't know if we want to do that so much. We might just click 3 here. This is like a bit ugly because now it's a 1 and 4 on agenda. Half the accesses are good. R&D, nice. Just getting a credit. We love that. That was a clickless run. Now we're resing the Bloop. This is just core damage. I think they might be deep diving again, but we got a core damage here. Hit the Carmen. No programs to trash. 50-50 to be rough. Ooh, that's bad. So if they slow down here, yeah, they're just going to go as ham as they can. So that's a really good hit. That's a reason why we don't put the Echo down. But now it's much harder to run HQ. They know we have an Echo, so they know they have the Merjana down. So our play is basically like Jupstad into Elibagao. So we're just gonna put that on the table. If they trash that for 4 in this economy, that's totally fine. And we'll just click 2. Okay, they're super aggressive. Luckily, Nightmare Archives kind of stymies that a fair bit. And their economy hasn't spun up. Dirty Laundry Archives. I think putting an ice on Archives next is going to be the thing we want to do. Okay, Nightmare Archives. Here, what is our play? We want to get the Echo on Archives. If we get a wave, I think it's a bit better for us. So I think we can afford to Spin Doctor. I'll put this into a new remote server. Okay, that's good for server 1. So we'll just put that in server 1. We'll have to protect that, and we'll put this on Archives. This defensive upgrade sometimes looks like a Hendrik, so maybe a Managram, so maybe they're less likely to run it. Obviously, we're putting all our eggs in one basket, which is pretty bad. Oh, actually, that's quite bad. Yeah, that's a really well-timed overclock. We get our Echo up. This is going to be 2 credits to break that, and if they want to trash both of these, we have another Jupstad, and trashing this stuff while we have a Spin Doctor is pretty okay for us. But they're through again. They have 7 credits to spend. They hit the Regolith first. You generally want to take that down, and then it's a Jupstad, which they can take down, but it'll be every single credit they have, so they decide not to. This is obviously a very important card for us. Most economy in a single card we have, and we kind of need economy here as much as our ice situation is relatively okay. Okay, Hansei, that's really good. We can Hansei away the Nightmare. We can also draw once and Hansei away an agenda if we want to. I like keeping the Nightmares a bit in central servers more than I usually do. They generally run Archives. It'll be their mark at some point. Okay, we need more ice for central servers, but now we can top deck any 3-2 and we can score out. Penny Shaver is going to be a bit hard to get value from, considering everything is iced up relatively well. The wave is a weak point. Okay, Abigail. Abigail breaks wave for 3. They probably just fire it. Top deck an agenda. Okay, let's just get some cards. Nothing yet. I think we want this on R&D for now. That's probably where we're going to lose. And we'll just get some more money again. And if we top deck even a 4-2, we could double Biotic score it out, as much as that's going to be absurdly expensive. Chesva, they're playing fast. Oh, wave. Okay, I think we get wave on HQ to play around Inside Job. We can draw once. Another Jupstad. Okay, we're not doing anything fast. We'll play equally quickly, as much as it's not macro quickly, it's micro quickly. So again, any agenda we top deck besides one of them, we can score out. That's the Echo. Again, because they haven't made a successful run, that's going to be for free with Chesva into Merjana, but it's only going to get better for us. We got to check here, mind you. This is a Carpe Diem run. They're going to hit a Nightmare Archives. If they take the core damage, we're stoked. They get a Penny Shaver from this. They don't. They take a negative point, so they're on 1 point. Again, negative agenda points are pretty scary, and that is going to be double Chesva. That's really scary, because even our bloops are not that great. Okay, we're going to have to do something really expensive here. I think we're just going to get this out, res, and just take money off of it. Again, we're okay with them knowing what this is. I don't want them to run this and trash our Jupstad as much as we have 2 more. And if we top deck now, again, anything, we can Biotic it out. It'll be 7 + 4 for a core damage. All right, no free lunch. That's the double Biotic play. I think we do that next turn. I think I will pay double Biotic, Jupstad, we Spin Doctor back Biotics. It's obviously absurd. If we top deck any other agenda besides the 5-3, we'll feel a bit better about it. We have 2 Elvigaos, 3 Vitruviuses. They're just drawn up again. Economy hasn't really spun up. Clicking Penny Shaver for 2, better than clicking for credit. And they're going to discard some cards here. So they threw out an Abigail and a Merjana. Okay. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to spend all the money in the world scoring this thing out. All right. Oh my Lord, wait a second. I forgot they had a core damage. They have a core damage. Why? Why do they have a core damage? Oh, because they hit the bloop. Okay, so I overdid that. So I don't need to play the Biotic. I over Biotic'd. We could have done that last turn, obviously. I over Biotic'd for sure. Okay, we're just going to undo that turn. They know we have double Biotic, so that might change their aggression. I totally forgot they had a single core damage. That's obviously worth paying attention to. Super embarrassing that we record this, but okay. Luckily, JNet says, pinhole threading gets trashed We got our first ontological. Okay, so now any agenda besides the 5-3, we can score out from the top. There's probably editor's text like maybe 3 minutes ago. Backstitching coming down, that's really nice. If they run any of these centrals, it lines up well. We know that they're on a deep dive deck. Sometimes they're on all 3 of them, and that's still kind of difficult to do without taking core damage. So get us an agenda here. Elvigao is actually really nice, because if they don't contest this, we can score this and de-res the Spin Doctor. We'll take the core damage first. We'll de-res the spin. I think there is some good reasons if you see Elvigaos to contest the Spin Doctors, but more importantly, they need to contest the Jupstad. At 3 core damage, that ship might have sailed. Like these are kind of goofy now. Dirty Laundry we're running into here. This is a bloop. They're going to bypass the bloop, but I'm pretty happy resing it. Again, we have good money and they need to lock the top of the deck. So they backstitch that. They know that this is a wave. We will res that. Do we want to take a card out of the deck? Magnet's like good enough. It's 3 credits. That's pretty good. I think the Braun on R&D is like the best case, as much as that's obviously very expensive. Nice. Wow. Good hit. Ontological. Really good hit now. We only have 1 more in the deck. Vitruvius, we can score that out for 7. I think we don't really need to res much more ice. I think we will. This makes the snares lethal as much as we're 1 credit short, but they're on 1 hand size. Yeah, we're 1 credit short here for the snare. R&D is the mark again. They can run relatively cheaply to see the top of R&D. If we top deck the ontological, we win, but it's a 1 in R&D. We also have the Spin Doctor, which we can shuffle the biotics back in. We can't win off double Elvigao, so actually it's going to be kind of tricky to close the game here. They're only on 3 agenda points though, and there's still 1 more Nightmare Archives, and they really can't take core damage. So the question is, do we use Spin Doctor now? I don't think we do. I think we'll do it anything. So they found the last one. Feels really bad. They're on 2 points. Carmen's down, so they have a breaker. Again, to deal with Bloop, it's only 5 credits. It's 1 credit with Chesva, which is pretty good. So the question is, do we shuffle back in with Spin Doctor before the start of turn? What are we trying to draw into here? I think Planogram would be pretty good. Biotic would be pretty good. I don't think any of those are that important. Sprint is really good. If we draw into an ontological, we can actually still score it out. So let's do that. We don't need the Jupe stats. Regulus is good. So let's shuffle those back in. I think we need to force them into the remote server. So we will do this. And they're just going to hit the top of R&D every turn. Luckily, we can break it with Spin Doctor, and it's hard for them to win off single accesses, as much as the game's all about the last ontological. I think we'll just take a credit here. We don't want to show what this is. Yeah, that's fine. Overclock? Yeah, they're going for it. Okay. So this is single access. We are threatening Snare 2 because we're on 4. We have 2 Snare in 18, 1 in 9. So they go through the Bloop for free. Now they start diving into the Chesva credits. And we have 1 in 9 for it to be lethal. The 1 send a message is the bad hit. Not a snare, not a steal, not a trash. Okay. And they know they have Spin Doctor, which they probably want to contest sooner than later, because with this, we can actually break lock. They can click this for 4. They have clickless 6 on the table. We just did burst draw as much as it was a sprint draw. So they could consider running HQ as much as their Chesvas are done. Okay, now they're running this. Good. This is what we wanted to some extent, because we don't need the Jupe stat and we just need them to spend money. Echo is 4 credits now that the Merjana has made a successful run, and we don't have an action here. They access the Regolith first. Again, you probably want to access the unknown, and the Jupestad survives another turn. Penny Shaper for 5. Nice. All right, so here we can do credit, hedge fund, ice, brawn. We can also try and mass draw with Spin Doctor. I think we can draw once relatively easily. Okay, so we need to shuffle the biotics back in. We want to make sure we have snare money. So I think here we probably just put the brawn on R&D. We don't want to res it probably because we want to threaten the snare. If they ever like just send it into HQ with multi-axis, we're in a pretty good spot. And there's 1 snare in R&D. Yeah, okay, this is going to be okay. The wave, do we res it? It drops us down to 5. I think if we hold 7, we can biotic out next turn if we shuffle 2 back with the Spin Doctor. So I don't think we're going to. If they run HQ twice, I think we're in an okay spot. So like we want to make HQ a bit more reasonable, as much as wave, like they could just let it fire, but they definitely won't on the first run. Echo, okay. They get the Penny Shaver. They get their, that was clickless, mind you. So I'm going to use this to shuffle back in double biotic. Nice. Good game. Negative agenda points, slowing them down. Negative points again. If they didn't have the negative points, they would be on game point, but unfortunately negative points puts you really far away. It's hard to take core damage. I do think to some extent, once you're on this low core damage, you probably could consider taking 1 more. Obviously you don't have a hand size, but you're still really weak to snare. They're going to try and keep this so they don't lose to distributed tracing, which I respect that. But yeah, if the Jupestad sticks, The droop set's like the one really bad thing. And then again, we can fast bounce. We have all the 3/2s in our deck. And that's this deck. I'll be honest, I don't know if it's my favorite thing ever. There's so many turns where we're just sitting still and hoping that we top deck into things. I think that's the issue I'm running into. A lot of the mid-range like code gates, like if you get to the mid to late game, a lot of your ice gets broken for next to free for most IDs. So it's hard to build a remote server unless you're like working with traps or the upgrade sort of traps, which we're not at all. I think there's definitely a higher ceiling here. The anemone lethals, I think, are a possibility you can pursue, but even just like running more sprints so we can control our hand a bit better is probably correct. Because there's so many more times it's just, do we draw into the right thing soon enough? Or like, do we draw into our recursion pieces before we lose all of them? But otherwise, this deck can work out. I think you can fast advance out. I think if you want to play a pure fast advance decks, I think Wayland is probably the way you want to go. Built to Last has options with even Trickle Light, let alone all the 3/2s inherently, or the 2-point agendas in Wayland. But that's the idea. But I just want to get out a video real quick here just to promote again. We have a GNK startup on Sunday. If you want to participate, it's totally free. Again, that's the 2nd. It'll start at 10:30 registration, 11 a.m. Eastern daylight time, I guess, right now. If you want to drop in, that's this Sunday, April 2nd. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Ciao. So I'll be honest, I was never the biggest fan of Thule, and I think we actually come to the same conclusion here, that there's a big chance that triple biotic is a thing worth pursuing in startup, but you can take this list and play it in something like Precision Design, let alone maybe even Architects of Tomorrow, and then use the PD ability to recur your biotics, recur your economy, and still play a triple biotic and still play Nightmare Archives. I think if the runner is not expecting the Nightmare Archives, they'll connect more consistently, and maybe the runner is a bit more willing to take core damage, unexpecting obviously the triple ontological you're following that up with. But I think there's a case, unless you're inherently doing something a bit rude with like Hendrik and some of the core damage traps, that yeah, other HBs might get you there just a bit more consistently. Thanks so much for watching. Again, we have an event this Sunday if you want to drop by. We're going to be running more GNKs over the time and more organized events. So I'm aware that the time zone for this might not make sense for everybody, but of course, we're going to be trying rotating those and doing other time zones that might make more sense for the rest of the world. I think that's it. Huge shout out to the patrons that help support this channel, allow me to put the time together to not only run GNKs like this, but also record videos, do the editing, all this sort of great stuff. So shout out. It's very much appreciated support. And that's it. Hopefully we'll see you on Sunday. Otherwise, we're streaming on Thursdays. We should have some videos coming up next week as well. Take care. Ciao.